All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. We're here to talk about really three main topics with how our pro remodelers work with Fairfax County. Specifically, we're going to touch on zoning updates. We're going to talk about, again, our beloved Plus program and how that's been working and any updates there. And then also discuss some of the great website resources that Fairfax County has and how we can interact with them. So, yeah, and I think who's going to start? Helman, is that you? Or...
Well, so we have folks from zoning and also LDS on the call, Ted. And I think what you have in the agenda first, I think it was update on perhaps some zoning information. Is that what we have first?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so maybe Catherine can chime in, and if she's got anything new to share with us, certainly we can answer questions too. Catherine.
Sure. So on May the 9th, I'm sure you're all very familiar with the ZMOD catastrophe. On May the 9th, the board did adopt ZMOD, and it took effect at midnight on May the 10th. So we are back under the 2021 ordinance, which is wonderful. And we're, there was a pretty significant backlog because of all that went on with that, and what were we going to review it under, and things that would have met one ordinance but wouldn't have met the other, and but anyhow, we are running pretty smoothly now. I'm happy to answer any questions about that, but the big news is that we're back under the ZMOD ordinance.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for Catherine about? Yes, Roxanne, please.
Could you speak for civilians a little bit on this? Because you're a little muffled from what I can hear. What are you saying is now been passed? And don't use acronyms or initials. Tell me what it means.
Okay, so in 2021, the Board of Supervisors adopted a new zoning ordinance, which was referred to as ZMOD, or the Zoning Modernization Project.
Got it.
And prior to that, we were operating under the 1978 ordinance.
Okay.
At the end of March, there were 4 residents of the county who were unhappy with some things in that ordinance. We took it all the way to the Virginia Supreme Court. At the end of March, it was ruled void, which meant it was like it never happened. And we had to go, like, in the blink of an eye on a Thursday morning back to the 78 ordinance. And the Supreme Court ruling was solely based on technicality. It was how the ordinance was adopted, because it happened in the height of COVID. It was on an electronic meeting. The Supreme Court ruled that it was not, and I'm going to get the verbiage a little bit wrong here, but basically it wasn't required for the continuity of government operations. So it should have been done at an in-person meeting after the pandemic or whenever.
Okay.
So basically what happened.
It's currently public. It's been currently published. Is it accessible? Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's all. You don't have to explain any further. I just wanted to know where we were. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to give all the planners in zoning a real kudos, because during this time of question, they had to review every single case on the dockets under both 78 and ZMOD, not knowing how it was going to shake out. We've got 2 in right now. And anyway, so now we're back on track. Nothing got delayed. Everyone did their job, and it was fantastic. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, congrats. Any other questions about the ZMOD or any zoning updates? All right, well, great. So it sounds like that's up and running. And so now the 78 is gone. We're back to just the current. Well, that's great work. Or at least great to hear. So I guess from there, then Helman would be. And
we can talk about Plus, but a question for you and the other Pro Mid-Atlantic members on the call. Have you maybe you can talk a little bit about experiences that you had recently with our system, especially for submitting new applications, and how's that working out for you? Is it smooth? What are you seeing on your end? That would be helpful to us. Any thoughts?
Feedback? Sure.
Any feedback?
Well, I'll go first, I guess, since I'm unmuted. But our experience has been very pleasant. All being in one spot has been much simpler for the team. The only, and I actually don't apply for permits any longer. My team does it, but the feedback has been very, very positive, and then only recommendations about maybe being able to develop it where they can operate through some of this on mobile apps, because a lot of times they're out in the field, they need to look at something. But other than that, it's just, they're all constructive thoughts. Nothing, that's been our experience. Steve, how about you or anybody else?
Yeah, been fine for us. I submitted a couple permits since you did some major revisions. What was it, last fall? Not having to submit or upload every single plan page individually was a real big help. Thank you. Now you can just put the whole PDF up there and it separates it out for you. Constructive criticism. Sometimes it's hard to drill down and find the piece of information you're trying to find. And I don't know if buttons on the page can be a little bigger, particularly looking at like the workflow thing. Sometimes it's hard to find for someone who hasn't been on the system very often or is a first-time user. Don't know if you've heard that before. Normally, eventually I find it, but sometimes it takes a little while.
Okay.
Anybody else? Doug, how about you? Do you have any insight?
No, well, I don't really work on the design side of things, but I haven't really heard many issues with Fairfax County, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, good. I agree. Well, anybody else have any feedback for Hellman and his team? Okay. Well, then, Hellman, I think, or if there aren't any other questions, then you want to dig into Plus?
Yeah. I think it'd be good that you hear from Kirsten and her team and her staff. From our end, one of the hardships that we had was when we migrated in the fall of last year with the records that were in flight. The story, some of them didn't land in the right place, and it was difficult for us to recover from that, but we have to a great extent. And we were getting a lot of phone calls every single day about records being missed, et cetera, et cetera. It was painful. We're getting a lot less calls, which means that the situation is a lot better from that perspective. And I've asked others around the office, in fact, some of the folks across the street, our higher ups, and they're not hearing as much either, which is really good news for us. So as we move away from the launch date, things are getting better from when it comes to the the records that were in flight. And we're glad to hear too that you're not experiencing issues when you're submitting new applications. That's good news. But Kirsten and her team have a ton of information because they deal with this, every single day. So it'd be good to hear from Kirsten's perspective. How, maybe Kirsten, how do you see it from your end?
Yeah, I agree with Hellman. I think things are definitely going smoother. They're a lot more predictable. We're getting fewer and fewer of the migrated records that had problems, 6 months ago. I think a lot of those have kind of worked their way out. And the new records, I think you've heard already that those are going through very smoothly. I did want to share some information, and both Brandy and Steve are on the call and are intimately involved with Plus and may chime in as well. But I think we've described before how we're going through kind of these monthly cycles called sprints where we're making enhancements and improvements to Plus. So those are happening all the time. And we distribute letters to industry as soon as a sprint is completed and kind of highlight some of the main improvements that we think you all would be interested in knowing about. So you can watch for those. If you're subscribed to our letters to industry, you'll get those and you'll be notified of those. And you can expect those just about monthly. So just so you know that, we are really focused on continuing the improvements to Plus, and it is getting better and better. And you'll probably notice that. I'm going to show you a couple of recent enhancements that maybe you're already aware of, but I think they're really helpful for customers. I'll show you those in a minute. One thing that Plus has enabled us to do is the system now is, it's a lot easier for us to kind of track our queues and where things are at and kind of manage the buckets of work that we have in a way that we never have before. And Steve and Brandy and their team have come up with a process where the residential trade permits now are being processed same day, which is really exciting. So that if you submit a residential trade permit by 3 o'clock, and if I think plumbing permits that don't need a wastewater review, so anything that falls in that category will be processed the same day. And if it comes in after 3, it'll be processed the next day. So that's our goal. Brandy and Steve, I don't know if you have anything else to say about that.
I would quickly add, I know Steve's on this call, we are coordinating the letter to industry this week. So you will also, to the point Kirsten made about subscribing to letters to industry, you'll see that formally announced. We were just piloting it to make sure we could keep up with it before we announced it formally. But I think you summarized it well. If Steve wants to chime in.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that. Before Plus, those permits were just auto issued, which, now with Plus, we're doing actually a kind of a QC review, which helps industry in the long run so that when the inspectors come out, there's less of a chance that there's going to be a discrepancy from what they find in the field and what's in the permit. So it's back to the same level of service essentially that you were getting before, where those could get issued same day. So we're really, really excited that we're able to make that happen. So wanted to give you kind of the first, you're the first to know about that improvement. So you'll see more information coming out in an LTI about that. So I'm going to try to share my screen now. I don't work in Zoom very often, but let me see if I can do this correctly.
And if I can ask you a question too, as you're looking for that, maybe you could, for those that aren't on the call that might watch this recording, if they wanted to set up or sign up to receive that letter of industry, how would they do that? Yeah, there's a link. I put a link in the chat to where you can find the letters to industry. I believe the sign up is on that page, but following the meeting, I'll confirm that and can certainly send it out to you if it's not on there. Great. Yeah, but thanks. That's a good point. Sure. So you can see my screen. This is the citizens portal into Plus. Is that correct? Am I sharing my screen? I don't see it if you are. Oh, okay. Let me see. Oh, I see it. There's one more click I need to do.
There you got it.
Now we've got it.
Perfect. Okay, so this, if you're familiar with Plus, this is the citizens portal. And there's 2 recent enhancements that I wanted to just point out. The first one is the workflow routing slip. Anyone who was working in project docs before may remember that you could download kind of this report that would show you exactly kind of the different steps that your permit was at in the process, who it was assigned to, when they got it, when they completed their review. If it hadn't been completed yet, you would see that as well. We knew that was popular. And so I think this is Steve's brainchild, came up with a way to recreate it. It's just in kind of an unusual location. So I think it's worth kind of pointing out. So I've got a record pulled up here, and you can come up to the top where it says reports, and you click on that, and there's the workflow routing slip report. Are you still seeing my window with the report generated? Yeah. Yes. Okay, so this is kind of the new version of that report, which will show you kind of each step of the process, when each of those tasks started, when they completed, if they weren't completed yet, who they were assigned to. So it really provides that transparency that I know was really valuable with project docs. The other thing that was very recently updated was some additional information here that if you're not real familiar with it, you might miss it. But there's kind of a little section here, some text with instructions about where to find some important links that take you to different information and different functions. So under this drop-down menu, it explains what each of these what each of these options relate to and what they'll do. So, and this is also where you would go to schedule an inspection. We know some folks were having a hard time identifying that. So this is just a little bit better instruction about, where you can find that information. And then down here at the bottom, we also are trying to provide a little bit more information and direction about where to find that workflow routing slip up here at the top. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Any questions about that?
It's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another announcement that I wanted to make, we are having a deck details boot camp. I can, actually, I'm going to keep sharing my screen because I'm going to show you a couple other things. But we had one last week, which was well attended, and our staff here in the Heritage Building are hosting in person for folks to come in and learn about our standard deck details. So if you're interested, you can sign up. We'll put the link in the chat and can send that to you as well. But you can come in, it's on June 7th, and we'll have staff here to kind of walk through and answer your questions about the standard deck details, which are, you know, it's really beneficial to use them because you'll go through the permitting process very quickly. So just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. Any questions about that?
Is that mainly, would you say the deck details boot camp is mainly for homeowners trying to learn about it, or is it more contractors, or is it a combination of both?
I think it's for both. That's my understanding. I know it's being offered by the building division reviewers, but I think it's
a good question. I attended the one we just had, and we had both. We had some homeowners that probably never built a deck in their life, and we have some very experienced contractors there too. So it was a bit difficult, you know, a gap to bridge, but the information was helpful to everyone. So I encourage you, if you have the time to go, I'm sure you'll get some benefit out of the presentation and the information they give at the meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So I was going to talk about some website resources, but before I did that, I wanted to see if Brandy or Steve had anything else they wanted to share about Plus, the other Plus announcements. Nope. Okay.
No, nothing additional to share today, but any feedback that you guys have, just keep sending it our way so that we continue to try to improve the system.
Great. I will say too that I just a few minutes ago, Helman, I forwarded you that email that my team had sent. I'd sent it once before, but I just brought it to the top of your email list. If that's something that's helpful to your team, you could share that as well.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I think the next thing on our agenda was to talk about some website resources. So, you know, as Plus is kind of being refined and improving, we know that our website is kind of a key tool for our customers to understand how to use it and to get the guidance that they need, especially now that everything is virtual. They're welcome to come in for support, but the vast majority of all of our business is done online. And so we really we're trying to focus on, you know, improving and modernizing our website to really kind of go hand in hand with Plus and to give customers the tools that they need, you know, to navigate Plus successfully. So I wanted to show you a couple of things that we have kind of in the works. This page, we are for now referring to it as our permit library. It may be renamed, but there's some good information here. There's links to the Plus support page. There's some infographics here that you can click on that explain when a permit is needed and how to kind of decipher the status that you might see in Plus. But down here is where kind of the meat of the page, and this is going to have really great guidance for all of our different record types in Plus. So the plan, this is not yet fully populated. We're working on finalizing the content, but we hope by the beginning of July it should all be kind of up and live. So for each record type, you can see we've got building records up at the top, site records at the bottom. You'll click into each one and then you'll see each record type, and this mirrors the way you'll see it listed in Plus when you're going to apply for a new permit. And then as you click on each one, there will be a dedicated web page. Again, this is in draft form. We've got a more updated version coming, but really we're trying to create these so that it's sort of a one-stop shop so that everything you would need to know about when you would need to apply for an additional alteration permit, you know, what type of work it would include, what documents you need to have on hand when you go to apply, who can apply, what the process consists of, you know, links to any required forms, other pertinent information about different functions within building plan review, or that would be related to the record that you're applying for, the site review information, the steps to get permits issued, and then we're also going to have inspections and other links. So you can kind of watch for this in the next month or so. This should really be kind of fleshed out, and a very comprehensive kind of place that you can come for everything that you'll need to know about each of these different record types. And we'll continue to evolve it as we go along. So as you take a look at it, let us know if you see something missing or something that could be added that would be helpful, because we really want to make this a valuable tool for our customers.
Great.
And then the other thing I wanted to show, so again, this is our metrics page, and we are also kind of continuing to evolve this. Plus is really enabling us to extract, real-time, very comprehensive metrics on like the number of records in our queues and how long it's taking to review things. And we think it's really important to make sure that we're sharing that readily with industry, so you know what to expect and plan for. So this information is sort of our first pass at doing that with Plus, and we've got ideas about how this is going to change over time. But we update these on a weekly basis. So I'll click on the first one here. These are PDFs, and these are different tasks that happen. And in this case, this is the residential building permit PDF. So each of these tasks, we're showing you what our target time is for this task. And if it's taking a bit longer, that's when you'll see, a yellow number beyond. So this application submittal is what you used to call pre-screen. It's currently taking 3 days. Ideally, we want to get it to 2 days, but it's close. So, and then you can see fast track residential review. The target is 5 days, and we are reviewing them within 5 days. So if you're ever wondering, say you've got a plan in and you're trying to figure out, should it have been reviewed by now? Should I have heard from someone? You can pull this up, and if it was submitted yesterday, you could look on here and go, yeah, probably not. I probably need to give it another day or two before it gets assigned to a reviewer. And then I'd give them about a week if it was in fast track to complete their review. But if it was a lot longer, then you'd look at this and go, something's wrong. Let me call the county and figure out what's going on. And it's just another great tool that you can use for planning and just to improve the transparency of the process.
Hey, Kirsten, if I may ask a question, if I'm new to this, and I'm not familiar, if I wanted to look at that one chart, mm-hmm. how do I know how long it takes me to go for a deck, for example? How would I read the chart? How many number of days? I know the answer, but if you can walk us through it.
All right. So Brandy and Steve, you better correct me if I'm wrong, but so that would require an application submittal, and this currently would take 3 days. If assuming that it can be accepted, it would take a day to distribute it for review, assuming it needs a plan review. If it does not, if it's using standard details, it would not, correct?
Correct.
Wait for Brady or Steve to jump in.
Yes, correct.
But then I guess it would need a site or the site zoning review, which is not shown on here.
Yes, the ancillary reviews. And I think we have a comment. So the site review would be built in there, but I do want to say there's a discrepancy at the front. It says here that this is only the review time for land development services. So building review. Okay. If you have to go to the health department or you go to zoning, we are not capturing their turnaround times on these infographics. And that's what the couple of sentences say at the top of the page. So if your project, this doesn't dictate time to market, because there are other outside reviews, health department, if you're in well and septic, zoning, that are not under LDS control, that we're not telling you how long to expect. This is only our review time turnaround. I just want to clarify that so that's clear.
Yeah, that's a great point. And so then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, finish. Go ahead, Kirsten, finish.
So then it would come back for log out. If there was a plan review, a building plan review, it would come back for log out, and that's this task. So you sort of add up each of the tasks that are involved depending on what the scope of the project is. And again, that's just LDS tasks.
So for decks, obviously, it would be 10 days, right? Because fast track doesn't apply. So it would be the 3, 1, 4, 9, and then log out 10. Brandy, is that right? 10 days for deck, is that what you see? Okay.
Correct, because that, even though you don't do fast track, that in review, like Kirsten mentioned, is going to, though we're not saying zoning, site tech review, where we review your plat, is in that in review process. We take about 2 days. So that's why we don't have a separate line item, because we're always within the 5. So we don't pull that out. So that just covers your in review. So yes, that would be about 10 days.
Gotcha.
That's very helpful.
Any other questions about that? You can see, I think up here is what Brandy was referring to about this just being LDS reviews.
Very helpful.
Yeah, so this is some metrics. Again, it will be getting kind of better and better as we go along, but that's our intent, is to get that information out to industry so that that's readily available for you all. So those are the 2 pages that I wanted to highlight. Happy to answer any questions. Steve and Brandy, if you've got anything else you'd like to share, please feel free.
There's a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Let me look at that. From Doug, it says, not sure where and when this will be appropriate, but I have 2 questions. Where, if anywhere, is radon control required? That's his first question.
So Steve, it looks like Steve Kendrick responded already that these need to go to Aaron Morgan, our inspection branch chief. Yeah, we're not able to answer these inspection related questions in this meeting.
Okay, so the frequent inspection failure points, he addressed that as well.
Correct. Both of them need to go to Aaron Morgan. Yes. And I think I believe that is Steve that's confirmed. He'll pass those along.
Okay, sorry about that. Then that's the only questions I see in here.
Any other questions from our side? Doug, you have any questions, or Steve, or anybody? Well, the only thing I would say, I know it was, well, I remember back, it was probably a year ago, Helman, you showed what you were trying to do with these charts, and they are fabulous, very, very helpful. I'm glad you all figured out how to get them live and something that's updated. So very, very useful tool. And I'm looking forward, what that library, when do you see that'll be live for us to be able to go in and search around and look?
So it is what you see right now is live.
Okay.
So you're welcome to check it out now. We are working on a lot of content right now. We're working with a consultant to help us with kind of the final webpage design. And our intent is that within about a month, so by the end of June, we hope to have all those pages, live. So it will look a lot different. Each of these, when you click on them, will look a lot different by the end of June. Okay. But you're welcome to kind of see the concept and see what's in there so far and get familiar with where to find it. And I can send that out as well. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time figuring out how to unshare my screen.
I think,
okay.
Did you find it?
I didn't know.
I think if you go to roll your mouse down to the bottom, I think there's a stop share button.
Okay.
If not, it looks like I can do it as well. You want me to try?
Yeah, please feel free.
Yeah, you don't have a stop share at the bottom.
I don't, unless it's another window. I'm sorry.
Mine says this will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? Meaning now it thinks I want to share a screen. Like,
Well, what we can do then, I guess, I think the last part of what we're here to do today is just sort of have this town hall sort of question and answer share session. So let's, I guess, dig into that. Does anybody have any questions related to the 3 topics we discussed here, or anything else that is on top of mind?
This may be a very simple-minded question, but obviously when you're saying days, you're talking business days?
Correct.
What do you count as a business day
Monday through Friday?
No, I understand that. Let's say I do something at 3 o'clock on Monday. Is the timing starting really the next day if it's that late in the day?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably reasonable.
Mhm.
I have a quick question. I'm not, as I mentioned, I don't actually work on our design team, so I'm not sure if this is still the case, but I remember at one point there, I had heard some frustration that questions were coming up and it was sort of, things were getting sent out of process and it was taking a long time to even realize there were questions, much less answer them. Has that all been ironed out, or is there something we were doing wrong? We often use permit runners. I think one of the issues was they weren't putting in the correct people's emails on our team, but I think that's been fixed.
So are you referring to getting updates from the Plus system, or are you talking about reaching out to staff and getting responses, or do you know?
I don't really know. So it's not a very good question. My understanding was it was sort of review, things were being rejected or taken out of review process as soon as there was a noted issue, and then it was taking us a long time to realize that there was an issue or what the issue was. So is that something that had been going on, has been fixed? And I'll just report back to our design team.
So contacts on the record should be receiving notifications when when it's been sent back to you with comments. So I don't know if it was an issue with someone not being listed as a contact on the record.
That may have been the issue. All right, cool.
Yeah, Steve or Brandy, can you think of anything else that might be?
No, if you're listed as a contact in the record, then when an action like that takes place, you should receive the email with those comments.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that was more conversion issue is what I suspect. Some stuff converted over, and if people didn't have an active Plus account, it didn't merge the right account, and so people wouldn't get the notifications you're talking about. They wouldn't know where in the process it was. And we had to do a lot of manual effort to fix those as the request came in. But as Kirsten said earlier, I think we've gotten through enough of those that that's not an issue. But if you have a permit expediter who can't, you should reach out directly to myself or Steve. And that is the very thing that we troubleshoot. But we've noticed a decline in the amount of volume around that issue.
Thanks. That's very, very helpful. And I apologize for being so vague about it.
No worries.
Doug, the only thing I would add is that I relate a little bit. I know we had some of the same issues, but that was a short period of time, and I know from our perspective, all that's been working great. So
good.
I will say I used the system for the first time last year. I was in private practice. I was doing most of my work in Arlington, so I'd gotten used to their systems, and I found your system to be good. I really didn't have any problems navigating. It was, pretty prompt response, and I think you've done a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. Any other questions or any then I think we've kind of hit the end of it. Wonderful job pulling all of this together, not only the discussion points, but just as Steve had said, the work that you've done in getting this entire massive project out the door and working. It's just great.
Hey, Ted, I have a question that Steve on the call still, it is probably helpful because we've heard this question before. It may come up with your membership. The question is this regarding to child building permits. So the question is this: as an applicant of a building permit, can the applicant have the ability to delete a duplicate child permit associated with the building permit? That way the owner doesn't need to contact the subcontractor to delete these additional unnecessary permits. And Steve has a good answer for that.
Unmute.
Apologize. I hit the wrong button. I picked start video instead of mute. The system you have to be on the county side of the system to go in and void an application. We do have some logic built in the system where if you like start an application and you save it, it kind of shows up as what's called a temporary application. It has a TMP and then a number associated with it. If you have one of those, you can just leave those there. We have logic in the system that purges TMP or temporary records every 90 days. But if it's an application that you submitted and you completed the process, you have to reach out to us.
Okay.
Great.
I'm copying and pasting all these links, by the way, and so we'll make sure that we get those out for everybody. Thank you for putting them in there.
Mm-hmm. So any other questions or thoughts or advice? Well, then thank you all for coming after a long holiday weekend and spending some time with us here and taking us through all the great work. So I think with that, Debbie, I'll turn it back over to you and we can conclude the meeting.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. We're excited that we've got the quarterly discussions back on track, and we've already got the dates for the rest of the year. So we appreciate it, and we'll keep in touch as we get closer. I'm going to turn the recording off now.